What a spruce it is to be here. Do we not feel this after a Shabbos like this? What an incredible spruce. We should sort of absorb really the feeling of what we are experiencing over this weekend. And it sort of brought to my mind, what is it that brings 1,250 people to a Shabbos like this, to a convention like this? Maybe it's the food. I mean, have you ever seen so much great food in one place in a 48-hour period? Now, between you and me, I think I've eaten so much food, I'm starting to eat food to help me digest between meals. Maybe it's the great teachers. I mean, is there a convention in the Frum calendar in the year that has an array of speakers like we had this weekend? Maybe that's what brings people to this convention. But you know what brings me to a Project Inspire convention that has 1,250 people here? What brings me here is that I think we can win. I think we can win. When you see Rav Grossman, when you see what the message, the powerful message he brings us, and what he has accomplished, I think we can win. When I see 1,250 people who are coming to find out how they can change Klal Yisrael, I think we can win. You know, the real reason that we're here today, Rav Noach Weinberg Zatzal, that's the real reason we're here. He would always say, just give me 10 good men. We'll change the world. Imagine what he would say now, after this weekend. You know, he's really the visionary. He is the drive behind everything that you've seen here. It's really him. And I know he's looking down and seeing and getting tremendous hana from this. Now, you know there's a lot of great kiruv going on out there. There are great kiruv organizations. There is the mindset people have changed over the last number of years in terms of how they approach kiruv. You should know that. We see that. But you should also know that the way that kiruv operates, we have to look at it differently now. That really, if you look at how many people are out there that need to be reached, the only feasible model, the only model that really makes sense is a grassroots model that uses cheap labor, that's us, to go out there and make a difference. It's the only, when you think about it, it's the only financial model that makes sense. As great as there are kiruv organizations out there, it costs a lot of money to run a kiruv organization. You have to keep hiring more and more people. This is the financial model that really makes sense. And that's what Project Inspire is trying to do. They're trying to create this model. So what can you do? So I'll tell you, it's really not that hard. You just have to make a connection with one person. Just make that connection. Just to be that mentor. You should be going out of this convention, and you should be picking up the phone after this convention and calling up Project Inspire. Set me up with a chavrusa. Calling other kiruv organizations. Set me up with a chavrusa. Or just get one yourself. Go out to a friend, a person you work with, a family member. Just make that connection. And make sure when you speak to the other kiruv organizations to help set you up, they're going to set you up with somebody that you can have over for Shabbos. Somebody that you can make a relationship with. The real benefit of learning with somebody, it's that jump board, it's that vehicle to make the relationship. That's how you're going to change people. One person. That's what you have to do. Everyone, imagine 1,250 people walking out of here and being a mentor, making a connection with one person. Imagine what effect that would have alone. And I'll tell you something else. An amazing thing happens when you do that. When you go out and you try and make a connection with one other person, you get the most benefit back first. The pasuk says, Hashem pakad et Sarah. Hashem had remembered Sarah. When it happened, when she couldn't have children, she's about to have Yitzchak, Hashem had remembered Sarah. So this bothers Rashi. Rashi, the normal Lashon, I should say, but Yifkod Hashem et Sarah. It says Hashem had remembered Sarah. So Rashi comments, we had just finished talking about how Avimelech had kidnapped Sarah, and as a result, Hashem punished them, gave them a nega. They couldn't have children anymore. So Rashi, famous Rashi says, Shekol hamivakshin rachamim al chaveira. Anybody who asks for rachamim, for mercy on his friend. And Avimelech had asked Avram, daven for me that Hashem should heal me. So, Kol shemivakshin rachamim al chaveiro, behu sarich lo, so davar. And he needs that very same thing. It would tear Avram apart, tearing Sarah apart. All they wanted, all that was left for them, was to have a child. They need that exact same thing. Hu nenet tchila. He would be answered first. You hear what it's saying here? You hear what the Torah is trying to tell you? If we just, what is it that we want? If you need something, and then you go out, and you give that exact same thing to somebody else, you daven for somebody else, and they should have that thing that you need more than anything, Hashem is going to give it to you first. What is it that we need? What is it that we want as a firm community? We should want Islavus in our Torah. We should want connection with our Yiddishkeit for ourselves, for our children. We have our own challenges too. Isn't that what we want for our children? We just want them to love Yiddishkeit. Well, guess what? The Torah is telling you, you want your kids to love Yiddishkeit. The best way to do that is to share it and give it to somebody else. When you give it to somebody else, you're going to get it first. It's an amazing thing. And anybody who's involved in Kiruv sees that and has experienced that. So, I'll tell you a story. When I was single, and I was learning with Asia Torah and my Rav, he decided he wanted to set me up with a chavrusa, somebody to learn with. He thought, who was it good to set me up with? And he came up with somebody, and Baruch Shem, we hit it off right away. Now, funny thing happened. We didn't really end up learning that much. We learned a little bit together, not so regularly. Once in a while. But I was at his place every other Shabbos. And he signed my ksuba on the day I was married. Now, as we mentioned before, we were just zocheh to marry off our daughter about 3 weeks ago. And this happens to be their first trip as a Chassan Kala, married Chassan Kala, here to the Project Inspire convention with 1,250 of their closest friends. And I remember as I saw my daughter sort of dancing away from the chuppah with her new husband. And I looked down, and it wasn't my friend. My friend, unfortunately, he was an avol, he couldn't make it. But it was his wife, standing there right at the bottom of the chuppah. And we looked at each other, and we hadn't actually seen each other for, we don't keep in touch that often. Every so often we bump into each other, talk to each other. we don't really see each other that often. But we looked at each other. We didn't have to say a word. A tear came to her eye. A tear came to my eye, because we realized how much our families meant to each other. That's a mentor. Everybody in this room, you just have to make that one connection. And that's a connection for life. It can change a life. Imagine 1,250 people walking out of this convention and making that one connection. So, my bracha to you, to all of you, you should walk out of this convention feeling, in a deeper way, the beauty of Torah, the meaning of your Yiddishkeit. And you should make a connection with one other person. And you should be empowered from this convention to go out and share that beauty with another Yid. And you should be that ripple that makes that connection with another Jew, reconnects them to Torah. And you should be that ripple that gets others from Yidden to make that connection with other Jews. And finally, you should be that ripple that ends up starting the process that we end up winning and bring Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'mei Rabbi Yameinu. Amen.